Marcus Chen stood at his apartment window, watching the rolling blackouts sweep across San Francisco like a slow-moving tide. The city that once blazed with endless light now pulsed weakly, sections going dark in scheduled patterns to conserve what little power remained. The quantum engineering lab where he worked would be next, shutting down in exactly 17 minutes. He checked his tablet one last time, reviewing the simulation results that had consumed the last 3 years of his life. All failures. The global energy crisis hadn't happened overnight. It had crept up slowly, disguised as brownouts and equipment failures until humanity could no longer ignore the truth. Traditional power generation couldn't keep up with civilization's demands. Nuclear fusion remained frustratingly out of reach, solar efficiency had plateaued, and the experimental quantum energy matrices Marcus specialized in remained stubbornly unstable. His phone buzzed. Another message from the Department of Energy, probably demanding updates on his latest research. Marcus ignored it. They'd learned soon enough that Project Lightwell, like every other attempted solution, had failed to produce sustainable quantum energy generation. The lab's lights flickered, then died, right on schedule. Marcus sighed and gathered his things, preparing for the long walk home. The elevator wouldn't be working, and his Tesla had been sitting useless in the garage for months. As he descended the emergency-lit stairwell, a brilliant flash illuminated the windows, casting sharp shadows against the wall. Marcus froze. It wasn't lightning. The light remained steady, growing brighter. Other people in the stairwell stopped too, phones pointing upward through the windows. The light intensified until it rivaled daylight, though the sun had set hours ago. By the time Marcus reached the street, thousands of people stood staring at the sky. Hovering above the city was a massive object, roughly cylindrical, but with organic-looking protrusions that defied Earth architecture. It gleamed with an inner light that pulsed in complex patterns, casting the entire Bay Area in an ethereal glow. Military jets screamed overhead, but the object remained motionless. Marcus's phone buzzed again. Not the Department of Energy this time, but an emergency alert. Remain calm. Shelter in place. This is not a drill. The object began to descend. Marcus should have run, should have sought shelter. Instead, he found himself walking toward the massive ship as it settled into a hover above the bay, its light reflecting off the water in mesmerizing patterns. He wasn't alone. Hundreds of others seemed drawn toward the waterfront, despite police attempts to establish a perimeter. The ship's surface rippled, and a smaller vessel emerged from its side, descending toward the empty pier. Military helicopters circled but kept their distance. The smaller craft landed with impossible grace, and for several long minutes, nothing happened. Then it opened. The beings that emerged looked nothing like the little green men of science fiction. They stood nearly 3 meters tall, their bodies composed of what appeared to be living crystal. Light coursed through their translucent forms in complex patterns, and where their faces should have been, geometric structures shifted and rearranged themselves continuously. "We are the Vextari," a voice echoed in Marcus's head, though the beings hadn't visibly spoken. "We come seeking help." The crowd murmured. Help? From Earth? From humans who couldn't even solve their own energy crisis? "We have observed your species," the voice continued. "Your adaptability, your creativity, your ability to solve problems in ways we cannot predict. We offer in exchange your ingenuity for our technology." Military vehicles pushed through the crowd, and officials in dark suits emerged. But before they could reach the aliens, one of the crystalline beings turned and pointed directly at Marcus. "You, Marcus Chen, your work on quantum energy matrices, crude but innovative, you see connections others miss." Marcus felt thousands of eyes turn toward him. How did they know his name? How did they know about his research? "Your world faces an energy crisis. We face one of our own, different but perhaps connected. Help us, and both our species may benefit." The suited officials reached Marcus first, surrounding him. "Dr. Chen," one said quietly, "please come with us. We need to discuss this situation. As they led him away, Marcus glanced back at the Vextari. Their crystalline forms pulsed with patterns he now recognized, quantum probability waves, just like the ones he'd been studying, but far more complex, far more elegant than anything he'd achieved. Within hours, Marcus found himself in a hastily assembled conference room within a secure military facility. Generals, politicians, and scientists argued around him about first contact protocols and national security implications. But Marcus barely heard them. His mind raced with possibilities. The Vextari's technology was beyond anything humanity had achieved, yet they claimed to need human help. Why? What had they seen in his failed research that interested them? A new message appeared on his tablet, though it was supposedly disconnected from all networks. The choice will be yours alone, Marcus Chen, not your government's, not your species, yours. Consider carefully. Marcus looked up at the arguing officials, then out the window at his darkened city. Humanity's greatest minds had failed to solve the energy crisis. Now, beings from another world offered a chance not just to fix Earth's problems, but to learn and advance in ways he could barely imagine. The catch? He had a feeling that accepting their offer would mean leaving everything he knew behind. The officials were still arguing about containment protocols and military responses, missing the bigger picture entirely. Marcus opened a blank document on his tablet and began writing equations. If the patterns he'd seen in the Vextari's crystalline forms meant what he thought they did, everything he knew about quantum energy generation would need to be reconsidered. His hands trembled with excitement as the numbers flowed. Sometimes, he realized, the hardest problems required looking at them from an entirely new perspective. Sometimes, they required taking a leap into the unknown. 3 days had passed since first contact, and Marcus hadn't slept for most of them. The secure facility where the government kept him buzzed with constant activity, but he barely noticed the parade of officials and experts that cycled through his makeshift lab. His attention remained fixed on the holographic display the Vextari had provided, a technological marvel that made Earth's most advanced computers look like children's toys. Your solution attempts are unexpected, said Carol, the Vextari scientist assigned to work with him. Unlike their first appearance, the crystalline beings now use specialized devices to communicate through sound rather than telepathy, a concession to human comfort. Marcus rubbed his tired eyes. Because they're wrong. Because they are impossible. Coral's crystalline form pulsed with colors that Marcus was learning to recognize as amusement. Yet they work. This is why we chose you. The door opened and Dr. Sarah Martinez, the government's lead physicist, entered with another stack of papers. Dr. Chen, we need to discuss these energy readings. They're unlike anything we've ever. She stopped, noticing the new equations floating in the holographic display. What is that? Human mathematics, Carl said, apply to Vextari quantum mechanics. Incorrect by our standards, yet achieving results we never considered. Sarah stepped closer to the display, her eyes widening. That's not possible. You're breaking at least 3 fundamental laws of physics. Marcus smiled for the first time in days. No, we're just looking at them wrong. The Vextari approach to quantum mechanics is beautiful, elegant, but it's also rigid. They've optimized their understanding so completely that they can't see alternatives. He gestured at the display, and the equations rearranged themselves. Look at their energy crisis. They've hit the theoretical maximum efficiency for their quantum crystalline technology. By their math, by their physics, there's no way to improve it further. But they're so advanced that they can't see the simple solutions anymore. Carol's colors shifted to what Marcus now recognized as deep interest. Show them. Marcus pulled up his original failed experiments from Earth. Our quantum energy matrices failed because we couldn't maintain stable containment. The energy would always bleed out, making the process inefficient. But look at the way it failed. He overlaid his failed containment patterns with the Vextari energy systems. The patterns matched almost perfectly, but inverted. Sarah gasped. You're not trying to contain the energy loss. I'm trying to harness it, Marcus finished. The Vex-Tari systems are too perfect, too controlled. But what if we deliberately introduced controlled imperfections, create resonance patterns in the bleed-off energy that actually amplify the main reaction? Carl's entire form blazed with light, impossible, elegant, human. A new voice joined the conversation, and valuable beyond measure. Everyone turned. In the doorway stood the imposing form of Zexra, the Vex-Tari High Commander. Their crystalline body towered over the humans, patterns of light swirling through their form in complex, mesmerizing ways. Marcus Chen, Zexra said, "It is time to discuss the true nature of our proposition." The room cleared quickly, leaving Marcus alone with the High Commander. Even Carol departed, their lights dimmed in what seemed like respect, or perhaps concern. "Your insights," Zexra began, "represent more than a potential solution to our energy crisis. They represent a way of thinking that our civilization has lost. We have advanced so far that we can no longer think imperfectly." Marcus frowned. "That doesn't make sense. Imperfection is essential for growth," Zexra finished. "We have spent millennia perfecting our understanding of the universe, but in doing so, we have lost the ability to see beyond our own perfection. Our civilization is dying, not from lack of energy, but from lack of innovation." The High Commander moved closer, their crystalline form refracting light in hypnotic patterns. "We wish to offer you a position within our society, not as a guest scientist, but as a true member of the Vex-Tari civilization. Our technology can alter your physical form, transform you into one of us while maintaining your human consciousness, your human imperfection." Marcus felt his heart race. "Transform me into a being like you." "The process is irreversible," Zexra stated. "You would leave behind your human existence, but you would gain effective immortality, access to knowledge and technology beyond human comprehension, and the opportunity to help guide two civilizations into a new era." The room seemed to spin. Marcus steadied himself against his desk. "And if I refuse?" "Then we will respectfully withdraw, leaving your world to solve its energy crisis alone. We cannot share our technology without risking the same stagnation that afflicts us. We need someone who can understand both worlds, who can bridge the gap between human chaos and Vex-Tari order." Through the facility's windows, Marcus could see the lights of the city, still dimmed by the energy crisis. Somewhere out there, billions of people waited for a solution, any solution, to prevent the collapse of human civilization. "How long do I have to decide?" "One Earth day," Zexra replied. "After that, the quantum resonance patterns between our species will become too divergent for successful transformation." Marcus thought of his life on Earth, his failed research, his lonely apartment, the years spent pursuing solutions that always seemed just out of reach. Then he thought of the equations dancing in the holographic display, of impossible solutions that somehow worked, of the chance to save not just one civilization, but two. "One more question," he said. "Why me? Surely there are other scientists, better scientists." "We evaluated all of Earth's greatest minds," Zextra interrupted. "You alone continued to pursue solutions that every model said were impossible. You alone maintained what we call creative irrationality, the ability to see beyond established limits. In our language, you would be called a symmetry breaker. In yours, perhaps, an innovator." As Zextra left him alone with his thoughts, Marcus turned back to the holographic display. His impossible equations glowed softly, breaking rules that the Vex-Tari had thought unbreakable for millennia. In those gentle patterns of light, he began to see not just solutions to energy crisis, but a bridge between two fundamentally different ways of thinking. The choice before him was monumental: remain human and watch his world struggle, or become something entirely new and help both civilizations thrive. As the hours of his last day as a human began to tick away, Marcus Chen sat down and began to write what might be his final letter to humanity. Pain was not what Marcus had expected to feel during his transformation. The Vextari had assured him the process would be seamless, but as crystalline structures grew through his changing body, each new formation sent shocks of sensation unlike anything he had ever experienced. Not quite pain, not quite pleasure, something entirely alien. The integration progresses well, Coral observed from behind the containment field. Your neural patterns are maintaining stability despite the quantum restructuring. Marcus tried to respond, but his voice no longer worked the way it should. His throat, like the rest of his body, was becoming crystalline, transparent. Through his changing skin, he could see pulses of energy following patterns that matched the equations he had written just days ago. The transformation took 12 hours. When it finished, Marcus stood on legs made of living crystal, looking at his new form in the reflective surface of the containment field. He towered over his old height, his body a latticework of translucent geometric shapes through which energy flowed in complex patterns. Where his face had been, crystalline structures shifted and realigned themselves in response to his thoughts. "How do you feel?" Coral asked. Marcus focused, learning to use his new form's method of communication. "Everything is more. I can see quantum fluctuations. I can feel electromagnetic fields. It's overwhelming." "Your human consciousness is adapting remarkably well," another voice said. Marcus turned to see Zexora entering the transformation chamber. "Most impressive is that you've maintained your original thought patterns while gaining Vextari sensory capabilities." Marcus moved carefully, testing his new body. Each motion felt both foreign and natural, as if he'd always known how to move this way, but was only now remembering. "The equations, I can see them. Not just understand them, actually see them in the quantum field around us." "Yes," Zexora's form pulsed with approval. "This is why we believed you could help us. You bring human intuition to Vextari perception. Already, your energy patterns show unique variations." Before Marcus could respond, a new figure entered the chamber. Unlike the other Vextari he'd met, this one's crystalline form held hints of color, subtle iridescent patterns that shifted like oil on water. "I am Telara," the newcomer said, their form singing with harmonics that Marcus's new senses interpreted as both sound and light. "I will be your guide to Vextari society." Over the next several days, Telara showed Marcus through the vast city ship that served as the Vextari's home. His new body moved with increasing confidence as Telara told him about their society's structure, customs, and daily life. To his surprise, it wasn't the sterile, purely logical civilization he had expected. "We are not emotionless," Telara explained as they walked through a chamber where young Vextari learned to manipulate quantum fields. "We feel deeply, but our expressions are different. Watch." The students were creating complex energy patterns, their forms resonating with what Marcus now recognized as joy, frustration, and determination. The patterns of light flowing through their bodies told emotional stories as clear as any human smile or frown. "Your human perspective helps you see this differently," Telara noted. "Most Vextari take these expressions for granted. We have become habituated to our own nature." As they continued their tour, Marcus began to notice something else, subtle variations in how different Vextari express themselves. Some, like Telara, incorporated colors into their crystalline forms. Others created complex harmonic patterns in their energy fields. Each individual had their own way of showing personality through their seemingly uniform crystalline bodies. "You're artists," Marcus realized suddenly. "Your entire civilization is built on manipulating energy and matter, but you're all artists too." Telara's form brightened. "Yes, this is what we hoped you would see. Our technology, our science, it is all an expression of creativity. But we have become trapped in patterns of thought that limit that creativity. We need new perspectives, new ways of seeing." Marcus stopped at a viewport, looking out at Earth glowing blue and white in the distance. "I'm starting to understand why you chose a human. We're messier, less efficient, but we see possibilities where you see only established patterns." "Precisely," Telara said. But there is something else you should know. Their form shifted, patterns becoming more complex. The transformation you underwent, it was not just about gaining Vextari capabilities. It was about proving that our species can change, can adapt, can become something new. What do you mean? Our civilization is dying, yes, but not just from energy inefficiency. We are dying because we have stopped evolving. Your successful transformation proves that change is possible. You are the first of what we hope will be many bridges between species. The implications hit Marcus like a wave. He wasn't just here to solve an energy crisis or offer new perspectives. He was a proof of concept for the evolution of an entire civilization. As if reading his thoughts, and perhaps they could, Telara added, but there is resistance to this idea. Not all Vextari welcome change. Some believe that bringing outside influences into our society will corrupt our purity. Are you telling me I'm in danger? Not directly, but the changes you represent, they frighten some of our people. Watch. Telara gestured to a group of Vextari passing nearby. Unlike the others Marcus had met, their forms were rigidly geometric, their energy patterns running in strict, unchanging sequences. They passed without acknowledgement, but Marcus could feel their disapproval radiating in frequencies his new senses could detect. The purists, Telara explained. They believe our civilization achieved perfection generations ago, and that any change is degradation. Your very existence challenges their worldview. Marcus watched the purists disappear down a corridor, their rigid patterns a stark contrast to the flowing, artistic forms of other Vextari. He realized that his transformation had placed him at the center of not just a technological revolution, but a cultural one. So what do we do? He asked. Telara's form shimmered with what Marcus was learning to recognize as determination. We prove them wrong. Show them that change, adaptation, and yes, even imperfection, are not weaknesses but sources of strength. You already see patterns we missed in our energy systems. Perhaps you can help us see new patterns in ourselves as well. As they continued their tour, Marcus began to see his role differently. He wasn't just here to solve technical problems. He was here to help an ancient civilization remember how to grow, how to change, how to see beauty in imperfection. The irony wasn't lost on him. A member of what the Vextari considered a primitive species, teaching one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy how to evolve. Night cycles on the city ship were marked by subtle shifts in the ambient energy fields. As his first day as a Vextari drew to a close, Marcus stood alone in his new quarters, watching Earth rotate slowly in the distance. His crystalline form reflected the blue light of his home world, creating patterns that expressed emotions he was only beginning to understand. He had chosen to leave his humanity behind to save Earth from its energy crisis. Now he realized he might have taken on an even greater challenge, saving the Vextari from their own perfection. In the vast laboratory aboard the Vextari city ship, Marcus's crystalline form hummed with excitement as he manipulated the quantum field generators. 2 weeks had passed since his transformation, and he was finally ready to test his hybrid theory of energy generation. The containment field is unstable, warned one of the purest observers, their rigid geometric form radiating disapproval. These modifications violate standard protocols. That's the point, Marcus replied, his own crystalline structure pulsing with patterns that reflected his determination. Perfect containment is what's limiting your energy efficiency. We need controlled instability. Telara stood nearby, their iridescent form shifting with both concern and curiosity. The chamber was filled with other Vextari scientists, divided clearly between those who supported innovation and those who clung to tradition. The tension in the quantum field was palpable to Marcus's enhanced senses. Beginning test sequence, he announced, reaching out with his consciousness to interface directly with the energy matrix. This was something he could never have done as a human. The ability to perceive and manipulate quantum fields directly was still extraordinary to him. The generator began to pulse, its patterns matching the equations Marcus had first conceived when he was still human. But now, With his Vextari senses, he could fine-tune them in ways his human mind could never have managed. The energy field grew, its geometry becoming increasingly complex. Field collapse imminent, the purest observer stated flatly. Shutting down. No. Marcus held up one crystalline hand. Watch. Just as the field reached critical instability, Marcus introduced his key innovation, a resonance pattern that turned the energy bleed from a liability into an asset. The escaping energy didn't dissipate. Instead, it formed a secondary containment layer, feeding power back into the primary matrix. The laboratory filled with light as the generator's output exceeded all previous records. Marcus's crystalline body sang with harmonics as he maintained the delicate balance between chaos and control. Impossible, whispered one of the purest observers, their rigid form showing the first signs of uncertainty. No, Tellara corrected, their voice bright with triumph. Human. The test ran for exactly 1 hour. When Marcus finally powered down the generator, the readings were clear. Energy efficiency had improved by 47% beyond the Vextari's theoretical maximum. More importantly, the system was stable, reproducible, and scalable. How? Demanded the lead purist observer, their form still rigidly geometric, but now showing subtle signs of distress. These results violate fundamental laws of quantum mechanics. Marcus laughed, a sound that translated through his crystalline form as cascading patterns of light. They don't violate the laws. They just approach them differently. Look at the resonance patterns. He projected the data into the quantum field where all could see it. Your traditional containment systems try to maintain perfect order, but that requires enormous energy. By introducing controlled chaos, what you would call imperfection, we create self-reinforcing patterns that actually enhance efficiency. Tellara moved closer to examine the data. Like the patterns of biological evolution they used, chaos and order working in harmony rather than opposition. Exactly. Marcus's form brightened with enthusiasm. It's the same principle that allows human creativity to solve problems that pure logic can't. Sometimes you need to embrace imperfection to achieve something greater. The laboratory erupted in discussion, with Vextari scientists debating the implications of the test. But Marcus noticed something interesting. The rigid geometric patterns of the purists were starting to show subtle variations, tiny irregularities in their usually perfect forms. Later, in a private chamber overlooking the Earth, Marcus met with Zexra and the High Council. His success had earned him the right to present his next proposal. The energy crisis can be solved, Marcus explained, projecting complex quantum diagrams into the space between them. But that's just the beginning. These principles could be applied to Vextari society itself. Explain, Zexra commanded, their massive crystalline form radiating intense interest. Your civilization achieved incredible advancement by pursuing perfection, but perfection, once achieved, becomes a prison. Evolution, whether technological or social, requires the ability to try new things, to make mistakes, to be imperfect. Marcus gestured to his own form, where human thought patterns created unique variations in the crystalline structure. My transformation proved that Vextari physiology can adapt, can incorporate new patterns. Why stop with one human? Why not create a program of cultural exchange? The council chamber hummed with shocked resonances. What Marcus was proposing was revolutionary, and to some, horrifying. The purists will resist, one council member warned. They already are, Marcus countered. But today's test showed them something they can't deny, that imperfection, properly understood, can lead to greater achievements than perfection ever could. And what of Earth? Another council member asked. How does your world fit into this proposal? Marcus turned to look at his home planet through the chamber's viewport. Earth gets the energy solution it desperately needs. But more than that, humanity gets the chance to learn from the Vextari, not just your technology, but your perspective, your understanding of the universe. In return, we offer what we do best: creativity, innovation, the ability to think beyond established limits. Zexra's form shifted in complex patterns as they considered the proposal. You suggest a true merger of our civilizations. Not conquest, not mere alliance, but genuine synthesis. Yes, Marcus's form pulsed with conviction, because that's the only way either of our species can reach their full potential. The Vextari have achieved physical perfection but lost the ability to evolve. Humans are chaotic, imperfect, but constantly changing and growing. Together, Talaura finished, having quietly entered the chamber, we could become something entirely new. The council chamber filled with overlapping patterns of light as the members debated among themselves. Marcus waited, his crystalline form reflecting both his human anxiety and his Vextari patience. Finally, Zexra spoke. Your proposal will face significant opposition. The purists will see it as a threat to everything we have built. Many humans will fear it as a form of invasion or corruption. The path you suggest is uncertain, dangerous. Marcus stood straighter, his crystalline form blazing with determination. All growth is uncertain. All evolution is dangerous. That's precisely why it works. The patterns of light in the chamber shifted, and Marcus realized that Zextra was doing something he had never seen before. Their perfect geometric form was deliberately altering, introducing subtle asymmetries. Then let us begin, Zexra declared, with imperfection. The first human volunteers arrived on the Vextari city ship 3 months after Marcus's successful energy revolution. From his crystalline form, he watched them step through the transformation chamber with the same mix of fear and wonder he had felt. Each transformation was unique, proving his theory that human individuality would persist even in Vextari form. But not everyone celebrated these changes. Abomination. The word resonated through the quantum field as Kelvor, leader of the purist faction, stormed into the observation chamber. Their geometric form was rigidly perfect, a stark contrast to the flowing patterns that now characterized most of the Vextari population. These humans corrupt the purity of our race, Kelvor continued, their energy patterns sharp with anger. And you, Marcus Chen, are the source of this degradation. Marcus turned calmly to face the purist leader, his own form displaying the subtle color variations he had learned from Talaura. Is that why you sabotaged the latest energy implementation on Earth? The accusation hung in the air like a charged particle. Around them, other Vextari stopped their work, their forms dimming to observe the confrontation. We did what was necessary, Kelvor admitted, their perfect geometry unwavering. Humanity is not ready for our power. Look how they squander their own resources, how they fight among themselves. Giving them our technology will only hasten their destruction, and ours. That's not your decision to make, Marcus responded, his form pulsing with controlled anger. The Council approved the exchange program. Earth's energy crisis is already easing in regions where the new systems are operational. The Council has been corrupted by your human chaos, Kelvor declared. But we have taken steps to preserve our true nature. Suddenly, alarms resonated through the quantum field. Talaura burst into the chamber, that iridescent form flickering with urgency. Marcus. The purists, they've activated something in the city ship's core. The energy patterns are becoming rigidly ordered, forcing conformity in all Vextari systems. Marcus quickly interfaced with the ship's quantum network, his hybrid consciousness, allowing him to see what was happening. The purists had created a massive quantum field generator designed to impose perfect geometric patterns on all energy systems within range. Any Vextari caught in the field would have their forms forced back into rigid, traditional patterns. You would destroy everything we've achieved, Marcus accused Kelvor. The cultural exchange, the technological advances, the very evolution of your species, all to maintain an artificial perfection that's killing your civilization. We would preserve what makes us Vextari, Kelvor corrected. Your human chaos has no place among us. Watch as order is restored. The quantum field expanded through the ship, causing newly transformed humans and progressive Vextari to cry out as their forms began to crystallize into rigid geometric patterns. Marcus felt the pressure himself, the human aspects of his consciousness fighting against the imposed order. But something unexpected happened. Instead of conforming to the perfect patterns, Marcus's hybrid form began to generate its own resonance. The same principles he had discovered in the energy crisis solution, controlled chaos creating stronger systems, were manifesting in his very being. "Telara," he called out, "the energy matrix solution, we can apply it to ourselves. Let the chaos flow through you, create feedback loops with the ordered energy." Telara understood immediately. Their iridescent form began to pulse with complex patterns, neither fighting against nor submitting to the purist's field. Other progressive Vextari followed suit, and soon the transformed humans joined in, their inherited human creativity allowing them to adapt the technique instinctively. The chamber filled with a dazzling display of light and energy as two fundamental forces clashed. The purists imposed perfection against the strength of controlled chaos. Kelvil watched in horror as their perfect field began to fragment. "Impossible," they whispered. "The equations are perfect. The patterns are perfect." "That's exactly why they're failing," Marcus explained, his form now blazing with energy. "Perfect systems can't adapt. They can't grow. They can't survive in a universe that's fundamentally chaotic." The purist's field collapsed completely, leaving the chamber in a state of dynamic equilibrium. The transformed humans and progressive Vextari had achieved something entirely new, forms that could shift between order and chaos at will, stronger for their imperfection. Kelva's rigid form seemed to shrink. "What have you done to us?" "We haven't done anything to you," Telara answered, moving to stand beside Marcus. "We've done something for you. We've shown you a new way to be Vextari." Marcus addressed the gathered crowd, his form radiating with the conviction of both his human heritage and his Vextari evolution. "This is what true strength looks like, not the brittle perfection of unchanging crystal, but the resilient beauty of controlled chaos. This is why the exchange program matters. Humans learn discipline from the Vextari, while the Vextari remember how to grow, to change, to live." The chamber hummed with new harmonics as even some of the purists began to experiment with subtle variations in their forms. The rigid geometry that had defined their civilization for millennia was finally beginning to flow. Zextra appeared in the chamber, their massive form now displaying an intricate blend of geometric precision and organic flow. "The Council has witnessed everything. Kelvil, your faction's attempts to force regression upon our species will be addressed. But more importantly, we have all witnessed the truth of Marcus Chen's vision." The High Commander turned to address the gathered crowd. "Today marks the beginning of a new era for both our species. The energy crisis that brought us together was merely the catalyst for something far more significant, the evolution of both our civilizations into something greater than either could become alone." Marcus felt Telara's energy field harmonize with his own, their patterns creating complex new geometries that would have been impossible for either species alone. Around them, humans and Vextari began to explore their new potential, each finding their own balance between chaos and order. The future suddenly seemed infinite with possibility, stretching out before them like the endlessly varied patterns of the quantum field itself. Perfect imperfection, Marcus thought, was turning out to be the most perfect solution of all. 5 years after the Purist incident, Marcus stood in Earth's first quantum integration center, his crystalline form reflecting the sunset over San Francisco Bay. The city gleamed with a new kind of light. Efficient, clean energy powered everything from the smallest devices to the largest buildings. But more striking than the technological changes were the beings walking its streets. Humans and Vextari moved among each other in all their varied forms. Some humans remained fully organic, while others had chosen partial or complete transformation. The Vextari too had evolved, their once uniform crystalline bodies now displaying infinite variations. Some had even adopted partially organic components, creating hybrid forms that would have been unthinkable just years ago. Contemplating your handiwork? Telara approached, their form now a stunning blend of crystalline geometry and flowing organic patterns. They had become more than Marcus's guide. They were his partner in every sense, their energy patterns harmonizing in ways that created entirely new forms of expression. Hard to believe it all started with an energy crisis, Marcus replied, his own form shifting to complement Telara's patterns. Sometimes the biggest changes come from the smallest beginnings. The Integration Center hummed with activity as another group of volunteers prepare for transformation. But unlike Marcus's solitary experience years ago, these transformations were celebrations, carefully planned journeys with full understanding of what lay ahead. Administrator Chen, a young human woman, approached, her eyes bright with anticipation. "I'm scheduled for transformation tomorrow. I was hoping to ask you something." Marcus turned, noting how she showed no fear of his crystalline appearance. "Of course, Sarah. What's on your mind?" "I've chosen a hybrid transformation, keeping some organic components while gaining Vextari capabilities. The development team says it's possible because of your recent innovations. I wanted to thank you for making that choice available to us." Marcus's form brightened warmly. "The credit belongs to everyone who dared to imagine something new. Speaking of which, how's your quantum architecture project coming along?" Sarah's face lit up. "Amazing. By combining human neural patterns with Vextari quantum processing, we're creating computational systems that can actually grow and evolve. The applications for space exploration alone are revolutionary." As Sarah continued excitedly about her work, Marcus felt a familiar resonance in the quantum field. Zextra had arrived, their massive form now a masterpiece of integrated design that reflected their role as bridge between cultures. "The Council has approved the Jupiter Colony project," Zextra announced without preamble. "Construction begins next month. Humanity's first major settlement beyond Mars, built with integrated technology and staffed by beings of both species." "And the Proxima Centauri expedition?" Telara asked. "Launching on schedule. The hybrid crew is eager to test the new quantum drive systems. Your energy matrix principles, Marcus, have made interstellar travel practically efficient for the first time in our history." Marcus absorbed the news, his form pulsing with quiet satisfaction. The changes they'd begun had expanded far beyond anything he'd imagined that night in his dark apartment, watching the rolling blackouts sweep across San Francisco. A commotion at the center's entrance drew their attention. A group of school children, human and Vextari younglings, were arriving for their educational tour. The sight of them learning together, their natural acceptance of each other's differences, always filled Marcus with hope. Administrator Chen, one of the human children, called out, "Will you show us the transformation chamber? My sister's getting transformed next year, and I want to see how it works." Of course, Marcus laughed, the sound creating beautiful patterns in the quantum field. "But first, let me tell you a story about choices and change." As Marcus guided the children through the facility, he shared the tale of how human imperfection and Vextari precision had created something greater than either civilization had imagined possible. The children listened with wonder, their organic and crystalline forms alike shimmering with curiosity. Later that evening, Marcus and Telara stood on the observation deck of the orbital platform that had once been the Vextari city ship. Below them, Earth glowed with clean quantum energy. Above, the stars beckoned with new possibility. "The purists were right about one thing," Marcus mused. "We did change everything." "For the better," Telara added, their patterns interweaving with his. "Look at what we've achieved: clean energy, medical breakthroughs, faster-than-light travel, and most importantly, the proof that different species can not only coexist but evolve together." "And we're just beginning," Marcus said, his form brightening with excitement. "Each new generation brings fresh ideas, new combinations we never imagined. Perfect imperfection, creating endless possibilities." A notification pulsed through the quantum field, another breakthrough from one of the research teams. This time, it was a group of hybrid scientists who had found a way to terraform hostile planets using integrated bioquantum technology. The universe was opening up before them, full of challenges that neither species could have faced alone. "You know," Telara said softly, "when you first arrived on our ship, Zexra told you that you were chosen for your creative irrationality. But I don't think any of us truly understood what that meant." Marcus turned to his partner, their forms creating complex harmonic patterns in the space between them. "Oh, we thought we were choosing someone to solve our energy crisis. Instead, we chose someone who would teach us how to dream again, how to imagine, how to become more than we were." Below them, the lights of cities sparkled like stars reflected in the ocean. Each light represented countless stories of transformation, adaptation, and growth. The energy crisis that had threatened to end human civilization had instead sparked its greatest evolution. A group of newly transformed beings emerged onto the observation deck, their forms still adjusting to their chosen configurations. Marcus watched them with pride, remembering his own transformation and all that had followed. "Ready to greet the next generation?" he asked Telara. "Always," they replied, their forms shimmering with joy. After all, who knows what perfect imperfections they'll discover? Together, they moved to welcome the newcomers to a future that neither humans nor Vextari could have imagined alone. A future built on the simple truth that sometimes the most beautiful patterns emerge from the places where order and chaos dance together in endless, evolving harmony. The universe stretched out before them, infinite in its possibilities, waiting to be explored by beings who had learned that perfection isn't found in flawlessness, but in the courage to grow, to change, and to dream beyond the boundaries of what seems possible. A century had passed since Marcus Chen first stepped aboard the Vextari ship. The Earth he had known, plagued by energy crises and limited by terrestrial bounds, was now barely recognizable. Quantum spires rose from every major city, their crystalline structures housing both human and Vextari inhabitants. The once clear line between organic and synthetic life had become wonderfully blurred. Marcus, his crystalline form now bearing the patina of age while maintaining its vitality, stood before the Galactic Integration Council. The chamber, located in humanity's first extrasolar colony on Proxima Centauri B, hosted representatives from a dozen newly discovered civilizations. Each had their own unique forms and cultures, drawn to the remarkable partnership that humans and Vextari had forged. "Tell us again," requested a gaseous being from the Orion arm, its consciousness flickering through clouds of intelligent plasma. "How did it all begin?" Marcus exchanged a knowing look with Telara, their patterns still harmonizing after all these years. Their partnership had become legendary, a symbol of what was possible when different species dared to dream together. "It began with a choice," Marcus said, his voice creating ripples in the quantum field that all species present could understand. "A choice between clinging to what we were and daring to become something new." He projected a holographic image of old Earth, dark cities plagued by energy shortages. Then he showed the first Vextari ship, its arrival changing everything. The images shifted through time. The first transformations, the purest rebellion, the grand integration, and finally, humanity's expansion to the stars. But the real story, Telara added, their forms still carrying traces of the iridescent patterns that had first caught Marcus' attention, isn't about technology or energy or even transformation. It's about learning to see beauty in difference. A young hybrid child, their form a perfect blend of human creativity and Vextari precision, raised a hand. "Is it true that some people oppose the integration? That they thought different species shouldn't mix?" Marcus's form softened with remembrance. "Yes. Change is always frightening, especially when it challenges everything you believe about yourself and your place in the universe. The purists among the Vextari feared losing their perfection. Many humans feared losing their humanity. Both sides had to learn that growth doesn't mean loss. It means gaining something greater than what you were before. The chamber hummed with thoughtful energy as representatives from various species considered his words. Many of them faced similar challenges in their own societies, grappling with questions of progress versus tradition. "Show them the Genesis Project," Telara suggested. Marcus nodded, projecting new images into the quantum field. A dead star system appeared, its planets barren and lifeless. Then the images accelerated through time, showing hybrid teams of humans and Vextari working together. Bioquantum technologies seeded the planets with life, while integrated consciousness networks guided their evolution. Within decades, new biospheres emerged, created through the perfect union of organic chaos and crystalline order. "This is our legacy," Marcus explained. "Not just solving an energy crisis or achieving interstellar travel, but learning to create life itself. Together, we've become more than gardeners of existence. We've become artists painting on the canvas of the cosmos." One of the original transformed humans, now an elder in the hybrid community, stepped forward. "Tell them about the Children of Dawn." Marcus's form brightened at the mention. The Children of Dawn were the first generation born as true hybrids, neither human nor Vextari, but something gloriously new. Their consciousness could shift seamlessly between organic and crystalline states. Their dreams shaped reality through quantum manipulation, and their creativity knew no bounds. "They are the future we never dared to imagine," Marcus said, projecting images of these remarkable beings. "They don't see boundaries between species or limitations in form. To them, existence itself is a medium for expression and growth." The chamber filled with amazed resonances as the gathered representatives witnessed the achievements of this new generation. The Children of Dawn were already pushing the boundaries of what was possible, exploring realms where physics and consciousness merged. "And what of Earth?" asked a silicon-based being from the Carina Nebula. "How has your homeworld fared through all this change?" Marcus projected a final image, Earth as it now existed, a shining jewel of integrated life. The planet had become a living museum of transformation, where beings from across the galaxy came to witness the birthplace of hybrid civilization. Its cities were works of art, its wilderness preserved and enhanced through quantum ecology, its people a testament to the power of embracing change. "Earth remains our heart," Marcus said, his form pulsing with pride and nostalgia. "But our home is now the universe itself. Every world we touch becomes a new experiment in cooperation, a new chance to prove that differences make us stronger." Telara moved closer, their patterns merging with Marcus's in the way that had inspired countless love stories across the galaxy. "And what of you, Marcus Chen? The human who became more than human, who helped two civilizations become something greater than the sum of their parts." Marcus's form shimmered with humor and wisdom. "I remain what I always was, an engineer who saw a problem and looked for a solution. I just never expected that the solution would reshape the galaxy." As the council session ended, representatives from dozens of worlds approached Marcus and Telara, eager to begin their own journeys of integration. The path they had pioneered had become a road that all species could travel, each finding their own way to blend chaos and order, tradition and progress, the organic and the synthetic. Later, standing beneath the triple moons of Proxima Centauri Bay, Marcus and Telara watched ships departing for distant stars. Each carried hybrid teams ready to seed new worlds, contact new civilizations, and spread the message that difference was not a barrier but a bridge. "A century ago," Marcus mused, "I was just a frustrated scientist watching my city go dark. Now look at us, architects of life, builders of worlds, teachers of civilizations." "And still learning," Telara added, their patterns creating a symphony of light in the alien twilight. "Still growing, still becoming." "That's the real gift we gave each other," Marcus agreed. "Not technology or transformation or even understanding. We gave each other permission to never stop changing, never stop dreaming, never stop reaching for what might be possible." Above them, the stars beckoned with infinite promise. Somewhere out there, New civilizations waited to be discovered, new combinations of life and consciousness waited to be born. The journey that had begun with one human's choice had become the galaxy's greatest adventure. And it was only the beginning.